Okay, student, last turn I had given you some homework. Have you done that? Okay, once again we'll just revise the last displacement reaction which we had learned. Okay, so the first reaction was reaction of zinc with ferrous sulfate. Okay, now here we can see that zinc is placed above iron, and that is why it displaces the iron from the salt solution. And what will be formed now? A salt solution of zinc sulfate will be formed, and here iron is left. Okay, now what we have seen in this reaction is that one metal is displacing the other metal. You can see the metal which is displacing the other metal is higher in the reactivity series. Zinc is above iron, and thus it will displace iron and form the salt solution. Now in the second example I had told you that there is a silver rod and it has been immersed in a copper sulfate solution. Okay, copper sulfate solution, which color is copper sulfate solution? It is blue in color. Okay, so what happens? You will see the reaction. There is no reaction occurring. Why? Because silver, it is below copper in the reactivity series, and hence it will not be able to displace copper from its salt solution. Okay, so we can see the color of the solution remains. The blue color of copper sulfate does not change after the reaction also. There is no reaction occurring actually. The silver which is placed in copper sulfate is doing no reaction, and after the reaction also we can see the same color of the solution as well as the rod is immersed as it is. There is no change. So, okay, now in the third reaction, that is reaction of tin with zinc sulfate solution. Okay, now reaction of tin with zinc sulfate solution. Here we can see what is happening is tin is below zinc in the reactivity series, and hence it will not be able to displace zinc from its salt solution. Hence we will see that the reaction does not occur. So basically what you have to keep in mind is whether the metal which you are going to displace with the other metal is above the metal in the reactivity series or below that metal. Okay, now the last homework example which I had given you was a lead rod which is immersed in AgNO3 solution. Okay, now what happens in this case? Here you can see silver comes above. You have to see whether silver comes above lead in the reactivity series or below. We will see that lead is above silver in the reactivity series, and hence the reaction will occur. Here there will be formation of lead nitrate and silver. Okay, so we can see easily whether the reactions which are occurring, when they will occur and when not. Okay, basically the metal which is displacing the less reactive metal should be placed above the less reactive metal in the displacement series. Okay, now after studying the displacement reaction, we will see the chemical properties of metals. Okay, now we'll be starting with the chemical properties of metals. As I said to you that metals, they lose electron, and that is why due to that it has many chemical properties. It shows difference in the properties with the non-metals. So now we will see some examples of metals, how they will be losing electron. Actually the valence electron is very loosely bound. For example, I take a case of sodium. Okay, here the center with the blue is the nucleus of the sodium atom, and the sodium is having atomic number, that is 11. Okay, atomic number of sodium is 11. electronic configuration is 281. Here you can see there is one electron in the valence shell. If I draw it over here, you will see one electron in the valence shell, 8 electrons in the second shell, and 2 electrons in the innermost shell. Okay, here you will see that this electron is very loosely bound because it is having a distance from the nucleus. So here this electron can be easily removed. To gain stable state electronic configuration, either sodium should accept 7 electrons or it should lose 1 electron. So the process of losing 1 electron is easy for it, and it is energetically favorable, means it will easily lose 1 electron and it will then only become stable. So you can see that now sodium, it loses 1 electron to form Na+, that is sodium ion. This sodium ion is stable. It has electronic configuration 2,8. Here 8 electrons in its outermost shell, hence obeying the octet rule, and therefore we can say that it is stable. So here we can see that the metal, it is easily losing electron, and this is the basic chemical property of metal. If you take another example, suppose I take an example of magnesium. Magnesium having atomic number 12, okay, and its electronic configuration will be 282. Here again it is having 2 electrons in its valence shell. It will be easier for it to lose these 2 electrons. Okay, now you will be thinking, why can't magnesium take 6 electrons and becoming stable? So just you imagine that electrons are held by the force by the nucleus, that is the electrostatic force between the nucleus and the electrons. Now if you will give it 6 electrons more, then the nucleus will not be able to hold it and it is not energetically favorable. So we say it is easier for it to lose the 2 electrons and form Mg2 plus 2 electrons. Here magnesium ion now is stable as it is having 8 electrons in its outermost shell. Okay. Now similarly you can see in the case of aluminium, you can see in the case of calcium, etc. Okay, this is the basic of chemical property of metal. Okay, now metals, as they lose electron, and that is why they are also known as electropositive elements. Just to do its nature of losing electrons. Okay, that is why they are also called as electropositive elements, as they form positively charged ion and become stable. Okay, now we will be discussing the chemical properties of metals. Okay, the chemical properties of metals is their reaction with oxygen, their reaction with water. So today we will be taking 2 chemical properties, that reaction with oxygen and reaction with water. Okay, the first property is reaction of metals with oxygen. Okay, metals react with oxygen and they form metal oxides. Okay, now there are different metals which react to a different extent with oxygen. Now we take the example of sodium potassium. They react very violently with oxygen. Okay, so the first category we are discussing is about metals which react violently, that are placed above in the reactivity series. Metal plus oxygen will give you metal oxide. Okay, here M stands for sodium or potassium. Okay, here M stands for sodium or potassium. So when oxygen is in less amount, then always metal oxide of these 2 elements will be formed. Okay, always metal oxides will be formed. But if oxygen is in excess, then sodium will form peroxide and potassium will form superoxide. These are different types of oxides which these metals form. So I can say when metal like sodium is treated with excess of oxygen, then there will be formation of, yes, peroxide. Excess of oxygen then it will form sodium peroxide. Okay, and potassium in excess of oxygen, it will form potassium superoxide. Now basically you have to keep in mind what it can form, that is metal oxide on reaction with oxygen, and if it is given in excess of oxygen, then the appropriate oxides. Okay, now these metals, they react very violently. I said the word violently because they actually liberate a large amount of energy, that is the reaction are exothermic. Okay, here we can see why the reaction is exothermic, because sodium and potassium, they are highly reactive metals, and when they react, they come in direct contact with oxygen, then they form metal oxide with the liberation of energy. That is, it is a type of exothermic reaction. Here we can see that metal is losing its valence electron and forming oxide. Okay, and here we can also say that the oxidation of metal is happening. It means the metal is getting oxidized. The word oxidation means to accept oxygen in this case. Okay, here metal is accepting oxygen and hence it is getting oxidized. Now we will see the case of calcium. Calcium also react with oxygen and it will form calcium oxide. Okay, these oxides are formed at room temperature. Means just in coming direct contact with air, the oxidation will happen. But some metals, they do not react at room temperature. It means that they have to be heated or they have to be given some amount of heat for the formation of oxide. Here we can take the example of metal like magnesium. Okay, here magnesium ribbon can be burnt in presence of oxygen and it will produce magnesium oxide. Here we can see that magnesium, if it is kept open at room temperature, there is no reaction with oxygen. But when they are burnt or the magnesium ribbon is ignited, then it reacts with oxygen and it forms magnesium oxide. So here you have to provide some ignition. Now the third case, I am taking of those metals which have to be heated before reaction with oxygen. Here I can take example of like metal plus oxygen. Okay, it will form metal oxide. Here metal that have to be heated are iron or copper. Okay, these metals do not directly react with oxygen, they have to be heated. That is, red hot iron reacts with oxygen and then it forms magnesium mass. Then it forms metal oxide. Here iron forms the metal oxide. That is Fe3O4. Here it is ferroferric oxide. Now the name ferroferric oxide means Fe3O4 is not a single oxide, it is a mixture of two oxides. Here FeO, that is ferroxide, and Fe2O3, that is ferric oxide. They both combinedly are called ferroferric oxide. So red hot iron on prolonged heating in the presence of oxygen, they will give metal oxide, that is ferroferric oxide. Here copper forms copper oxide, that is CuO. Okay, so we can see that metal has to be heated prolonged, means it does not form oxide on just heating also. It has to be heated prolonged till it becomes hot, red hot, and then only it reacts with oxygen. This shows that it is less reactive than sodium, magnesium, as they have to be heated much to raise the temperature and then only react with oxygen. The next example I am going to take is that some metals, they do not have to be heated, but only the temperature has to be raised. That is, metals like zinc, they do not have to be heated, only the temperature has to be raised, and then they react with oxygen and form zinc oxide. That is they are formed above room temperature. So in this case also there should be heating. Okay, here delta is shown for heating. So this zinc oxide, it is formed when zinc and oxygen are heated. Okay, they burn in air only on strong heating to form their oxide. These were the reaction of metals with their oxide. So you have seen different categories of metal reacting differently with the oxygen. Okay, sodium potassium is reacting vigorously. They react very fast, and that's why only sodium has to be stored in kerosene. You cannot keep it in open. If you will keep it in open, then what will happen? It will form sodium oxide and there will be no sodium left. Secondly, you will be thinking, why can't we store it in water? What's the use of kerosene? So now when we will study the reaction of metals with water, you will see that sodium even reacts with water to liberate hydrogen gas, and that reaction is very exothermic. It is very vigorous. Sometimes the hydrogen gas evolved, that also catches fire. So that is why sodium is preserved in kerosene. Okay. Now after discussing the reaction of metals with oxygen, we'll study the reaction of metals with water. Reaction with water. Okay, as we have seen that metal reacts differently with oxygen, it will react differently with water. Here also there are categories with which metal reacts with water. We can see the first category is metals whose reaction with water is highly exothermic. Okay, so in this case we'll take the two metals, that is again, yes, sodium and potassium. Yes, sodium and potassium, they react with water to form hydroxides. Okay, they'll form their corresponding hydroxide, and here there will be liberation of hydrogen gas. Now the gas liberated catches fire sometimes because of the highly exothermic reaction which is between the metal and the water. Now exothermic means the energy is released in this case. Okay, when metal reacts with water, a large amount of energy is released when the metal is sodium and potassium. So you can say the reaction is exothermic. Hence it is very violent. Violent reaction occurs. Now here the water which we are taking, it neither be hot nor be boiling. It should be cold, then also the reaction will occur. Okay, so sodium and potassium, they react with even cold water and form their corresponding hydroxide and liberate hydrogen gas. The next category of metals we are taking which form their corresponding hydroxides, but water should be boiling, or you can say hot water. Metals react with water, that should be hot. Okay, now the metal here we can take is magnesium. Magnesium reacts with hot boiling water. Okay, magnesium will react with water and form magnesium hydroxide and liberate hydrogen gas. Now if you want to talk about calcium, then you can include calcium also in the first category, because calcium also reacts with cold water and liberate its hydroxide, but here the reaction is not that exothermic. Okay, it's not that exothermic, means as exothermic it is in the case of sodium and potassium, it is not that exothermic. Now after studying the hydroxide of magnesium, which is formed when magnesium reacts with hot boiling water, we'll study the reaction of metal with steam. Now the less reactive metals, I take the case of zinc and aluminium. Here zinc and aluminium, they react with, here zinc and aluminium, they will be reacting with water, but the water is in the form of steam. Okay. Now as steam has more energy than hot boiling water, therefore zinc forms its hydroxide when it reacts with steam. Okay, it will form zinc hydroxide and liberate the hydrogen. Okay, here similar case is in the case of aluminium. Aluminium also, it reacts with water. It reacts with water in the form of steam and it forms the hydroxide, that is aluminium hydroxide, and it will liberate hydrogen. Okay. So you can see in this case that zinc and aluminium, they do not form their hydroxides but they form their oxides. When zinc reacts with steam, okay, it forms its oxide, that is zinc oxide. So zinc will react with water in the form of steam and it will form zinc oxide plus hydrogen gas. Here you can see that zinc is given oxide and not hydroxide. Similarly in the case of aluminium, aluminium when it will react with steam, it will give aluminium oxide and liberate hydrogen gas. Okay, so we see the difference in this case. Okay, what is the difference? Yes, the difference is in the case of the product. Higher reactive metals, they form their hydroxide, whereas the moderate reactive metals, they form their oxide on reaction with water in the form of steam. Okay. Now metal like iron, which is even below zinc in its reactivity series, it reacts with water in the form of steam, but simple iron will not react. The iron should be red hot. Only then it will react with steam and then it will form iron oxide, that is Fe3O4, which we have already discussed earlier. Fe3O4, that is ferroferric oxide. Here it's a mixture of two oxide, ferrous oxide and ferric oxide. Okay. So you can see the metals, how they react differently with water. Okay. But metals like copper, silver, gold, they do not react with water. Even whether you heat the metal, whether you give steam or whether you do anything, they don't react. Okay. So we can see the last category of metals with water reaction is reaction with unreactive or less reactive metals. This is the category of metals which are placed below hydrogen in the reactivity series. Okay, so copper, silver, gold, platinum, they do not react with water. Whether the water is in the form of boiling water or steam, it will not react. And therefore you can say that they are less reactive or they are not able to displace hydrogen from water. Okay, and thus they are below hydrogen in the reactivity series. Okay, so we can see here how metals react differently with water.